I've always been recording them on Zoom, but I found that the viewership of those Zoom recordings was not really that high. And I too, I'm a consumer just like they are. I really am not too pumped up to sit down and watch a 1 hour Zoom call, even if I
Same.
can make it go fast. So that's why we decided to start putting all of the coaching calls, all of the workshops I do, basically anything I do also goes on Hello Audio.
All right, welcome back to another case study episode. We are so excited to have Andrea Liebross here. She is an author. She is an amazing coach for high achieving female entrepreneurs. I'm so excited. And I know you've been a Hello Audio user for at least going on a few years here. So we're so excited to talk with you, learn a little bit more about your business. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Why don't we start off by you telling us a little bit more about your business and your business model so people can kind of understand what you do and who you do it for?
Sure. So, as Nora mentioned, I work with entrepreneurial women who are really wanting to up level their business and find that freedom in their business that they crave and the part of the reason they started the business in the first place. So, helping them find more time, money, energy, brain power so they can get themselves to the next level personally and professionally. So, most of my clients come to me with the premise that we are doing business coaching, which we do. But I will always say, hey, life's fair game too, because life definitely gets in the way sometimes or mixes in with business. So it ends up kind of being a combo, to be honest. I also have my own podcast called Time to Level Up. And last year I released a book called She Thinks Big. You can find it at any of your favorite booksellers or on Amazon. And I've been using Hello Audio. I don't know, we just tried to figure out for how long, but a couple of years at least to help my clients really stay plugged in to what's going on in their coaching world, in their particular coaching group. I've got a couple different groups, coaching groups, depending on where their business is at and honestly kind of where they're at more in terms of mindset. Sometimes it's not even just where their business is at. And, you know, 99% of them also are moms and have kids, and they're not on every coaching call. Like, it's just the way life goes. Someone's sick, they're sick, they have a client appointment, whatever it is. As the business owner, even though they're supposed to be in charge of their own schedules, which is part of what we talk about, they're not necessarily on all the coaching calls. I've always been recording them on Zoom, but I found that the viewership of those Zoom recordings was not really that high. And I too, I'm a consumer just like they are. I really am not too pumped up to sit down and watch a 1 hour Zoom call,
Yeah,
even if I
same.
can make it go fast. I don't know.
Yeah,
So,
true.
yeah. So that's why we decided to start putting all of the coaching calls, all of the workshops I do, basically anything I do also goes on Hello Audio. It's kind of what it
That
boils down to.
that's great. I'm curious. So you're a podcaster, so you're already
Yeah.
kind of familiar with podcasting. I'm curious when you first found out about private podcasting because that's lesser known. I
Right.
think we've done a pretty good job of making it more known over the last several years. But when can you think back to that time when you first learned about private podcasting and thought I can use this to help my clients?
Yes. So the first time I used it was to create a very small audio mini series, and I was trying to use it as a lead magnet. And I took some of my own podcasts that I had already recorded and put those on Hello Audio. And then I supplemented it with a little extra push. And I used it as a lead magnet. So that was my initial way back in the day, first attempt at Hello Audio. That thing is still out there, I think, actually. I probably
Well,
should I probably should, take a look at it. But, I also found in doing a little survey with my clients that they like to listen. Like, they're listening in their cars, they're listening while they're walking their dog, they're listening while they're doing dishes, or even they're listening while they call it, like, doing work that doesn't involve brain power. Like, someone said to me, Andrea, she's an artist. So she said, I can listen to you while I'm drawing, but I can't listen to you when I'm actually doing like a website development project, which is totally fair. My clients start to binge actually on these, we'll call them past coaching calls. And they also binge on them before they enter the group. So my group's kind of, you can join at any time. So they listen to a whole bunch of past coaching calls, so they start to become familiar with the people in the group even before they get to their own first live coaching call. So it's as if they kind of already know some of these people. And that eliminates a little bit of the, I've toyed around with like, should there be specific cohorts? And is it okay if people are joining at any time? We could debate that, right? But by having access to, and I'm putting it in air quotes, like, audio access to the members of the group that they're going to meet when they finally get there on day one ahead of time, it makes a difference. This is actually what I would say. Listening to calls they missed, getting familiar with the people in the group on a more intimate level, even before they quote unquote arrive to their first coaching call. And then using it, like someone today said, I don't remember when, but I know you talked about scaling a business a while back. And where can I find that? And even to that, and she already knows about like she's listening to Hello Audio. I said, just type that in, that word scale in there, and we label all of the topics, and you'll find that particular conversation somewhere in the library.
I love that. You're bringing up a really important point. So I've designed a lot of different programs over the years, and there is this debate. And there's a
Yep.
lot of program owners that will go back and forth. Should I have a cohort style enrollment where I'm bringing all the people on kind of at the same time, or maybe monthly or quarterly, or whatever that might look like for them? Or can I do this on a more evergreen basis? And the fact that your people can actually consume and get to know about the businesses, and I would also say the lay of the land
Yeah.
and how these calls go so that
Yeah.
they're not as apprehensive that first call and they can feel a lot more comfortable jumping in and know what to expect. I
Yep.
think that's a huge benefit, not only for your existing participants, but also because there's less disruption, I would probably argue.
Yeah.
There's probably less disruption from new folks. But also, what a huge benefit to the new folks that are just enrolling that they have access to this back catalog of
Yep.
genius because there's some gold that gets dropped
There
in
is.
every single call.
There
That's
is.
right. There's
Yes.
gold that's
Yes.
dropped. And now they're actually able to get to know the people around them. And we know that having a supportive community is always going to increase your probability of success, whatever that success looks like for you, being around supportive community members. And what better way to have show support and get support is to know and be interested in your fellow classmates or your
Right.
fellow members, which I think is
Right.
fantastic.
And you bring up a really good point about the disruptive part of the puzzle, because it's a normal human question to say, okay, Andrea, yes, I'm a go. Let's do this. But what can I expect? What does a call look like? What does it feel like? And I can explain from now until the cows come home. If you get to actually listen to it, then that's worth way more than the words, with like a picture's worth 1,000 words, whatever that. How about like an audio is worth 1,000 words? Because I run my calls pretty much in the same format every week, and I always ask something at the beginning. Actually, this happened the other day. I always open with a question, and I say, whatever the question is, put it in the chat box. Put your answer in the chat box. So a new person was on the call, and I noticed that when I asked the question, she unmuted herself like she was gonna talk, and then quickly was like, "Oh, no, I'm putting it in the chat. I know I have to put these in the chat box." Kind of like she knew the format before it even happened. So, yeah, that's a huge benefit, I think, to having this private podcast feed.
I think so too. Benefit for both your students, both clients and for you.
And
I
me.
think right? I mean, just
Yeah.
from an operational standpoint, I think it makes things run a lot smoother. And I think I really appreciate having the ability to sample, kind of
Yeah.
understand what this is going to feel like before I get on a real call. Because for some folks, that's
It's
depending on if
intimidating.
your client, it can be intimidating and very anxiety like
Yes, anxiety
ridden.
provoking. Yeah.
Yeah, especially when you're on camera or feel like you need to be on
Right.
camera for some of us.
Yeah.
It's just like, "Oh, okay, I've gotta know
Yeah.
look like I know how this goes down." So I think
Yes.
that's beneficial, and just the being able to listen on the go. I'm guessing all of your clients are busy. I mean, you work with
There's
female entrepreneurs,
yeah,
right?
no
They
no
they need
one's
the ability.
it's totally true. They need the ability to be able to listen. I'll call it kind of almost like offline, even though, kinda off the outside of the allotted times, right?
Correct. And I think that's important to highlight here because a lot of times as business owners and as program owners that we tell coaching programs, we think, oh, well, if it's important, and there's a lot of unfortunately, some masculine bro marketing that is, you can't make the call, then it's not important to you. It's about prioritization. And that's just
Right.
not reality
No.
for, many people. It's just about we have a lot on our plates and we have
Right.
prior commitments. And we never want for those, and I know that you're such a heart centered entrepreneur and you care so much about your clients'
Right.
results that it is important to people that care to make sure that we're giving everyone the best possible chance of success. And I think your clients on the front end, when they know that the private podcast is an option so that they know they can more easily listen to replays, it becomes less of a sales objection, whether or not that call is at seven
Right.
o'clock on a Tuesday. And they know that, Billy's got soccer or whatever
Right.
that might be.
I
Do you
just
find that happening to your people as well?
Yeah, and I just thought of something when you brought up everybody wants to know when are the calls?
Oh my
Like,
gosh,
when are
yes.
you okay, normal question, I would wanna
Yep.
know too.
Every time.
I say, "Hey, 99% of the time, they're Wednesdays at noon Eastern, but sometimes they're not." And they some once in a while, "Oh, I already have a standing call that goes till 12:30." So, like, you can kinda, like, see the wheels turning, like, this might be I don't know." So then I always jump in and I say, "Listen, this is only a problem if you make it a problem. You can be on your other call till 12:30 and hop on for the last half, or you can catch the replay. Like this, it's only a problem if you make it a problem. I mean, that's really kind of the bottom line with that. So that's a really good point. I also thought of one other thing as you were talking. This happens frequently. So in coaching, a lot of times if I'm doing my job well, I'm asking questions and I'm kind of asking deeper questions, not just surfacey questions. And many times, and hopefully all the time, we get to like a deeper level of understanding of why you're thinking something or why you're getting the result you're getting or why you're feeling the way you're feeling. And I'll say sometimes, hey, Nora, I want you to listen back to what we did, what we talked
Yeah.
about today.
Yeah.
I want you to
Powerful.
listen to yourself. Remember, but just I really truly want you to listen. I want you to listen to the tone of your voice because sometimes in the tone of their voice, they get all like they're getting excited about something.
Mhm. Yeah.
They're asking you, which should I do A or B? And they talk about A, kind of like this. And they start
Yeah.
talking about B, and it's a whole different tone. I said, just listen back, listen to yourself and see. You'll find that we kind of already decided the answer. It's B, but go listen and figure out why we decided it's B. You're of a whole different demeanor when you're talking about it. So it can almost be a teaching tool in that sense too. And they'll write down, they're like, "Okay, this was at 23 minutes into the call." So when they go back, they can zoom right to it. So that's another great thing.
That is such a great, especially for coaching, that happens so often. And it
Yes.
happens in so many different ways, right? Whether you're coaching someone on clarity. So in this case,
Yeah,
I would kind of categorize that as I'm trying to get clarity on something. And as they talk
yeah,
through it, you're like, okay, that's it. Or even I've done this for copywriting. Like, so you're guiding someone for copy and you're asking questions about their avatar and they say it. And I was like, that's what it should be. Like,
right.
and then they're like, wait, what did I say? What did I
Yeah,
say? So back to listen to it. That's exactly what it should be. So I think you're right. And are they really gonna, for all practical purposes, are they gonna go back and watch the video and do that?
no.
Especially if that video is behind a login and it takes 5 minutes to load it up? No,
Yeah,
but if it's in their phone in their pocket, because that phone is with us almost 24/7, to be able to pull that out and just go straight to that segment and listen to it very easily anywhere at any time, that's
yeah.
a lot more likely that that's gonna happen.
It's so true. Like I can look at the statistics of how many people watch the video and how many people listen, and much higher percentage of listeners than watchers.
Wow. Have you noticed, I guess, let's talk a little bit about staff, and not that you necessarily need to have hard numbers or anything like that. That's not what I'm asking. But in terms of your engagement, in terms of and this might be engagement in client questions that are getting asked, or even on the conversion rate. If because you had mentioned you do have a lead magnet, and you've used it for lead magnets. You
Yep.
notice when you incorporate audio, you're seeing higher engagement rates or higher conversion rates in your business.
Yes, I mean, 100%. I think, if I had to zoom in on what are my top sources of new clients or converted clients, let's even go a
Oh, good.
step
All
further,
right.
or conversions, prospect to convert. I'm like 100% of the time they have listened to me somehow before, not 100%. Like either they've heard me on a guest podcast, like me guesting on a podcast, and then they go listen to my podcast. Okay, that's my public podcast. Or they started reading my book, and then they started listening to the private podcast feed, things on finding freedom in my lead magnet. 100%, I would have to say, they have heard me somehow.
Do you
Yeah.
find that the quality of a client or the readiness of that client to
Yeah.
invest is
Is
higher?
way Yes, they're way more ready. Way
Yeah,
more ready.
it's been pre-framed correctly.
They have been
Yeah.
pre-framed. They kind of are familiar with how I sound/operate or my approach. They'll even say to me, "I know, I heard you say this in a podcast that you're gonna do X, Y, and Z." I'm like, "Yes, that is true. I
That's
will do X."
wonderful.
Yeah, so the conversion rate is, higher, and the ease of conversion is a lot higher.
Can we appreciate more ease in business? Can we just take a minute and pause
Yeah, I
at a
know.
moment? Because I would say even, within the last 18, 24 months, I don't know a single coach, consultant, service provider, course creator that has not struggled with selling the things that used to work are not working as effectively,
Right.
and there's reasons for that, and it has nothing to do it doesn't mean your marketing is bad or whatever, it just there's been shifts in the economy, there's been shifts in all of our in our customers' lives and our clients' lives that are making this a lot more difficult, and the fact that you can do something as easy as and I'll ask you in your words if it's easy, I believe it's easy, but then again, I'm own the company, so I can say that. I think it's easy, but in terms of what you can do to help create more ease of conversion. Of all the things you could do, I think private podcast is one of the easiest, but that don't take my word for it. What has been your experience?
Yeah, I think it is one of the easiest. Any audio is way easier to convert than anything written, hands down, with the versus written. And I would say audio is definitely easier to convert versus video, hands down.
I mean,
Yeah.
and for me personally as a creator, I don't always love getting the prep that I need to do video. That's in the
I
editing,
know.
not super fun.
Yes.
Not super fun at all.
No, not super fun.
I guess tell me if you've gotten feedback specifically from either prospective clients and or existing clients, people who have converted about the private podcast. Because not everyone may listen to podcasts, and that may kind of be a new concept for some people. But have you received any feedback from them with them using it?
They just think it's like another podcast. It's easy.
Easy. Oh, that's the word.
And we have it automated, so when we onboard them, they get your automated email, whatever, however we have
Yep.
set that up in the back end. That's not my job, but it
Yep.
works,
Sorry.
whatever
It's
it is.
easy. Yep.
We zap to something and something magically happens, and they just get that invite in their email inbox, and we tell them to look for it. But, you know, we also use Google Calendar for, coaching calls and links to here's the link to the call. It's on your Google Calendar. Subscribe to the calendar. Then, like, we never get, someone that's, "I can't get Hello Audio to work," like, never. But the Google Calendar subscription thing
The
sometimes,
difference.
or logging into, like you said, the logging into what the video where the video
Oh,
library
yeah.
is, because I've got other stuff, that's always problematic. I really cannot remember the last time someone was said, "I can't get onto Hello Audio," or "This is hard," or confusing, or but that is also my client, right? So, my
True.
client is someone who does listen to podcasts and things like that. Like, they already know what that is. It's not someone that's not familiar with podcasting in general. So, I guess that's something to remember too, but yeah, it's pretty easy.
Yeah, if my mom can do it, it's pretty easy. That's kind of
I
usually the benchmark. She has problems with email, so
Right,
yeah, if
mine
she
does
can do
too.
it,
Mhm.
we're doing pretty good there. I'm curious with you and your business. Now, normally this happens, and it may not apply to you, but a lot of times we have folks that may have had brainstormed or thought of an idea of how to maybe use a private podcast, but they haven't yet executed it. It might just be in their back pocket, something that maybe it's a new lead magnet or something. Do you have one that you're kind of thinking about, but you haven't done it yet?
Yes, I do have one that I'm thinking about, but I haven't done it yet. We are redoing my whole marketing plan and strategy as we speak.
Ooh.
And, podcast guesting and my own podcast and my book are like the top 3 strategic ways that I get myself out there. And because of that, I've actually thought about doing more lead magnets that are audio. And really making that the platform. Now, I will be honest, I have to get over one thing in the sense that with my own podcast, I have a podcast producer. I'm not the one that's slicing and dicing. And I'm used to that perfect, the music rolls in and the whole thing happens. So I think if I were to do this lead magnet, it would be a little more down and dirty. It wouldn't be necessarily all musiced up, but the music doesn't really matter. It's the content that they're getting to.
Right.
And so I have to get over that little hump, probably. But yeah, like that it was very easy to identify, what were the top 4 ways that people are entering my world. So that was very clear. And so since audio type things are at the top of the list, we started to think
Seems
about
like
this a little more seriously.
makes sense. And audio, I would say, is increasing just from a consumption channel. And we'll start to see that, especially if you live in a climate where it's starting to get warm here in the summer months, especially like here in the States, because people don't want to necessarily be inside. We're going to start to see
Right,
a reduction of screen time, at least on a computer, and maybe not necessarily on phones. But we're going to see
right.
a lot more mobile consumption, is what I would call
Yep.
that. And so audio plays perfectly into this time of year where it is hard to get someone to sit at a computer for 2 hours and watch a workshop.
Right, and I can see too I probably could see this with Hello Audio, I'm not really sure, you may tell me. I can see with my own podcast who's consuming it on a mobile device, who's consume or the percentage on a mobile device, percentage at a desktop, percentage, that kinda thing, so it's like, 90% is mobile or more.
Yeah, which makes
Yeah,
sense, especially for your audience because they are on the go. They're not gonna be passive consumers,
no,
your folks, and that's a great thing, right? That's how they get the
right,
results that they want, right? Is by being the go-getters, which I think is awesome. I think I'm curious on the front end because I know you have a quiz, and don't worry, we'll link to your podcast and your book and make sure we have everyone has those links in the show notes here. But tell me a little bit about the quiz too that you've got,
yeah,
and I'm curious if you've ever thought about using audio for a quiz. We've had some people do it, and I'm wondering if you've
hmm.
ever thought about that.
I have never thought about that, but that is a very intriguing idea because I am redoing one of the quizzes also right now because there's
Ooh.
this whole marketing redo. That's a very intriguing idea, Nora. I don't know. So I have 2 quizzes. One's more about productivity, why you're not getting things done, what's your productivity archetype, and the other is more about finding freedom in your business, assessing where you are in your business, what's working, what's not working. Do you have the team you need, et cetera, et cetera. That's the quiz I'm actually redoing because I've realized it's not, at least my clients, it's not all about the nuts and bolts of their business that's setting them or keeping them stuck. It's a lot of it's the mindset. So I'm adding some more mindset questions in there because I say it's 80% mindset and 20% systems. So, I could do a quiz,
I
audio
love
quiz.
this for archetype type quizzes. Say that 3 times fast.
Mhm.
Because you could provide usually there's a video or some sort of content that directly relates to their archetype.
Yeah,
And so
right,
that could be, so depending on what plan you are. And in Hello Audio, you can either use tags for that. So if you're
yeah,
this type, you get these episodes, and that way it's very customized to that individual. Or they might just get a separate feed for that archetype that would then lead
right.
them into whatever the next step is in your marketing funnel.
I like that idea. I'll
It can
keep
be
you
it's
posted.
something worth testing if you choose to. I think
Totally
it could be
is.
awesome, especially when well,
Seems
here's the thing too, and I think this speaks to you spend so much time and you put so much care and effort and you're so intentional about the content that you do create, again, because you care,
mhm,
because we want our clients to get the results. And so part of that is not just spending the time to create amazing content, it's also spending the time to make sure it gets consumed. And I think
right.
this is one what you've done in your business and how you're using audio, it does elevate the probability of success in the sense that they are now much more easily able to consume your content that you've worked so hard on, that you do put
Yes.
time and love into. And I think that also is the same thing for lead magnets. It's not just about
Right.
the content that people pay for, it's also the lead magnet content, which is also very valuable.
I am releasing the book I wrote on audio and Audible
Oh,
audio
nice.
format
Yes, I'm a
this
big
summer.
Audible fan. Yes.
I just thought of because when I had the print version, as a lead magnet, I said, "I'll send you the first chapter for free." And I could have a chapter on Hello Audio as a lead magnet.
Yep, especially if and you'd have to check, I don't know, it just depends on exclusivity rights with
Yeah.
Audible and if you're able to do that, but We've even had folks do behind the scenes or a bonus thing that wasn't ever
Yeah.
because you know
Yeah.
how it is to write a book. You
Oh, I
always
know.
like how many times can you revise it? A bazillion if you really
Right.
wanted to, right? As everything happens, as the economy changes, as all the
Yes.
things.
Yeah.
And so you could absolutely do an unreleased chapter on audio as well.
Good idea. These are all great ideas.
I'm glad. At least I can add some value. I don't know. Feel like it's one of those days for me. I'm like, at least I can come up with marketing ideas, but getting the laundry folded, I don't know. We'll have to talk about
Yeah,
that
that's
later,
okay.
but that's not the
That's
important
see,
part,
that comes into coaching. A
right?
lot of
Yeah.
times people will be like, "Wow, I can solve the world's problems, but I can't put all the laundry you folded or put it away."
See, yeah, if I cared more about the laundry, maybe I could, but clearly that's not the priority for me. So that's
It
okay. I
isn't.
much more enjoy making other people money. That's my day
It's
here.
more fun.
A lot more
It's more fun.
fun. So I'm curious. So we've got probably people listening who this is new for them. I don't know if they're not as familiar with private podcasts or they're thinking, I think this could work for my business, but maybe I have some hesitations. Do you have any advice or tips for someone who might just be getting started or doing something for the first time? And maybe you even have clients
Yep.
that are you recommend this to as well, or maybe their business.
Yeah.
So do you give them any tips or insights to help them get started?
Yeah, I think with anything new, I always say you kind of have to treat it like a science experiment,
I
like a
love it.
6th grade science experiment. I talk about 6th grade science experiments often, where you had to stand next to your partner in the lab and you guys had a hypothesis and then you tested it out and then you had to write up the report. Okay, so go back to those days. And this could just be another science experiment. So, probably if you're listening to this, you have the hypothesis that potentially adding Hello Audio into your business would be beneficial. So why don't we just treat it like a science experiment and test it out? Right. So, and I always say you've got to give yourself a significant amount of time. You can't decide in a week if it works or not. You also have to know what you're measuring. Are you just measuring the listenership? Are you measuring conversions? Because maybe if you're measuring conversions, I don't know if you could put all the cards on Hello Audio. There is a sales process in there. It's part of your sales process, but is it like the whole thing? I don't know. That could be, maybe not. But just if you want to just see, okay, are people listening to this as the first step in testing the hypothesis, listening or not listening? Yes or no? That's a great thing. And then you can add on, okay, so yes, they're listening. Now I want them to do the next thing, engage in the next way. All right, maybe I have to tweak something a little bit in order for them to get that next step. So that's the other thing. I always say, don't think like you're going to go from 0 to 100 in a minute. Just like step by step, just like those science experiments. And you got points from the
Yeah.
6th grade teacher if you outlined every step of the way. You could not just write the conclusion at the end, or else you wouldn't get all the points,
Goodness, I
right?
love this analogy. Yes, and your grade was not tied to whether the experiment was a quote unquote success or a quote unquote
Correct.
failure. And I think we forget that. We tie it so much
Yes.
to the fact that, oh, well, I didn't get 6 figures worth of sales. So this launch was a quote unquote failure. And it's just like, whoa, wait a minute. Did you try something new? Like that, there's something there about having an experimental mindset. And knowing that, by the way, everything else around you, your client, your market that you're in, the economy, everything is shifting. It's never static. And so to
Right.
expect the same exact results in a different time frame, it's like you're running the experiment in different conditions. And so we forget about this. And I love this because I was a super big nerd in school, very much that person with the, going to state for the science fair. Like that's definitely
Yeah.
who I am. But it is, you're running the experiment in different conditions, and we have to remember that so that when you run it once and it didn't work, look at the conditions that you ran it under. And it doesn't mean that it's not going to work under maybe a slightly different condition or you modify one of the variables. And I think that I love the way you put that because it takes the emotion out of it. This
Right.
isn't emotional. This is just running an experiment.
It is. That's all it is. The end. Right? I mean, that's it.
I love that. Oh my
Yep.
goodness. This has been so much fun talking with you. I am so excited. I'm so glad that you came. I do have one question that we like to ask all of our guests. This is like a little bit of a personal question, but it's kind of fun. And that is if you had a private podcast with your life's musing, what would it be called?
So my friend and I joke that we need to start a podcast that's called You Can't Make This Shit Up.
Oh, yeah.
There's all this. Thanks. But really? This really is happening? And then we say, that is going into Can't Make This Shit Up podcast.
I love that. That resonates on very many different levels, for
Yeah.
sure. I absolutely love that. As we kind of wrap up this call, is there anything else that you want to share with someone who might be listening to this and is just kind of curious? I know we're going to have all your links on below if they want to get in touch with you. We'll
Mhm.
make sure that we make that super easy in the show notes. Check those out. Anything else you want to add?
One of my favorite ways to frame things is I say, being an entrepreneur is a journey in personal development disguised as an entrepreneurial adventure. So, you know, doing anything new, starting to use Hello Audio, it's exciting, right? It's adventurous, but you're only going to be as effective using it as you have to push yourself a little bit. You have to grow as a person. You've got to try some new things. This may kind of push you out of your comfort zone a little. And that's what's really going to make it a success or not. It's an adventure. It's exciting, but it's only going to be as effective as you are willing to grow yourself.
And the energy, like to me,
Yeah.
and when I look back at the times where I didn't really put in the energy that I probably could have, or I approached it with a different type of energy, maybe for whatever reason, bandwidth, capacity, right? All the things. I feel like that is something I personally have become more conscious of as I take on new projects, especially for someone who says yes to a lot of things and
Yep.
maybe shouldn't. And I'm sure you have clients that are like that as well. But it's
Yep.
always about, can I bring the energy and can I dedicate and can I give it my all to make this? If I'm committing to this experiment,
Yes. Yeah.
am I gonna really make the commitment with my time, my energy, and my resource?
Right. There's a whole chapter in my book about, are you just interested or are you committed?
Ooh, all right. All right. You heard it. Check it out. We'll make
Yep.
sure we put the links
Yeah.
to that book
That's what it
below
says.
so that you can grab that. And maybe by the time we'll see if when we release it, maybe the audio version will be out and
I know.
we'll make
Maybe it
sure
will
we
be.
get those show notes updated when it is available. Oh my goodness.
Okay.
I have absolutely loved talking with you today. I'm so glad you were here. Thank you so, so much for sharing your business with us and sharing how you're using private podcasts as well.
This has been so fun. Thanks for having me.
And there you have it, audio heads. Another episode of Launch Your Private Podcast is in the books. I hope you're leaving today feeling even more ready to amplify your voice and connect with your audience in meaningful ways. The adventure continues in our next episode with even more insights, strategies, and inspiration to help you along your own private podcasting journey. Of course, make sure to check out helloaudio.fm to start your own private podcast. And remember, you've got amazing content that needs to be heard. So let's turn the volume up. Until next time.